Me and all my family and friends.
What's up, everybody? This is Dominic D'Angelo, and I'm on the Horsemen and I am here today. We are live. I'm with Greg Gagne, Magnum TA, Straight Talk with the Boss. Oh my gosh, I'm hearing myself double time. I think I know why, too. Hold on a second.
That's all right. You're the host. You can mess up.
I'm messing up pretty good right now. Where the heck is going on here?
Hey, I've always been late or missed the podcast completely, so don't feel bad.
Where are we at here?
TA, are you on a roll today? You ready, baby?
Ready to roll?
I will be.
All right.
There we go.
I did a little sip here. I'll be all right.
Now we're good. I had me on double time. I was on a YouTube. I had my YouTube channel up. But guys, we're live with Greg. We're with Magnum. How are you guys doing today?
Good. All I could do is see my face. I had the wrong screen up. I'm wondering where you guys were.
And we're a technological mess today. But that's okay.
What a tag team partner, TA, huh? I don't remember shit. I forget dates. But what the hell?
But I'm always glad to see you. I'm always glad to see you show up. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking 2 days out of your time this week to get to me.
Make it one way or another. We have some people live in the chat. CB says, greetings from Scotland, Greg and Magnum and Dom. Thanks, CB. Nice. Good to see and hear from you.
We're reaching out. We got 4 viewers now.
Yeah, there we go. Broadening our horizons. But what I wanted to start off today was what kind of happened a little bit on Raw was the aspect of Gunther and Sheamus. Did you guys both happen to see that match at all? The main event match on Raw for King of the Ring?
Yeah, I thought I saw it.
Yeah,
it was a hard... What happened? Did I miss something in it?
No, it was just a hard-hitting match, and I really liked it.
I thought maybe something happened.
No, it made me think of you guys. And
I forgot about.
And what a good topic it was, because we talked about some of the.
I'm going to take off the Magnum.
Right.
You're going to have a hard time getting me to give good critiques this week, because I've been working around the clock and seen very little. I saw a little WWE. I saw a little AEW, and very, very sparse. But
I have to be honest.
But I will have an opinion for sure.
Yes.
I watched WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I did not watch AEW.
It's okay.
I have such a tough time.
It can be tough.
I know they got good talent down there,
mm-hmm.
but here's the way I see it. And I know I'm going to piss off a lot of people here, but the guy running it, good guy. He has money. He loves wrestling. He wants to put into it.
Sure.
But he hasn't surrounded himself with the right people to help him control the talent and what goes on, I don't think. That's just my opinion from watching it. Mm-hmm. To me, it's like the asylum is running the...
Yeah, the inmates running the asylum, so to speak.
Exactly. And I learned that way back from my dad. He said, you always have to listen to the talent, take mm-hmm. their ideas, and then you have to formulate them for them. If you let them do it, it's going to end up being all about them and not about the entire picture, the whole picture that needs to be looked after to make this thing run correctly and get everybody limelight, not just a few people.
Exactly.
If that makes any sense to anybody. But that's the way I was brought up. That's the way I was told, you should run the business. Vern was very successful with the AWA for many, many years, and his philosophy seemed to work. He passed that on to Bill Watts. Bill Watts came up, trained with him, and learned. Watts wasn't quite the payoff man that Vern was.
No, that's what I heard.
Vern paid 33% of the talent.
Wow.
With the main event getting the most and then on down. But mm-hmm. we had such great talent that everybody really got paid well. Yeah. And Eddie Graham was pretty much the same way. Eddie really worked with Bill and Eddie quite a bit, trading talent. And Vern had trained all these 144 wrestlers he trained over the years. You know, he sent them Gene and Ole Anderson, Lars Anderson, eventually Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair. They were supposed to go down there for like 2 years and then come back.
Right.
And Vern always liked guys that were amateur wrestlers. And this is the story I wanted to tell.
Okay. Yeah.
Because Bill Watts had talked to Vern about Magnum TA. And then Vern said, well, we'll try to get him in here. And then then Bill called back and said I think he went to Florida from there. Did you, TA?
No, I went to work for the Crockett's.
Right from Bill? Well, then you went from Eddie to Bill? Then it was Eddie he had talked to and told him about you. And then from Bill, he called Vern and we were going to bring you in because we were at this point where we had Bockwinkel Stevens, Pat Patterson, Jack Lanza, Baron von Raschke, Mad Dog Vachon, the Crusher, from that older group of wrestlers, and they were starting to fall out. So started with Jim and I, and then we were going to bring Ricky back and Flair, and wanted to get Magnum in there, which he didn't know about. I forgot about that, but I did. I know your name came up quite a bit, but he was working with Eddie and Bill on it, and once the guys got to Charlotte saw the talent they had. We never got them back. So we ended up with an older crew later on when we were running against McMahon. Still great names and great matches, but he wanted to build that young talent up to kind of, take over. And those are the people that we were kind of targeting along with a few others.
Who else? Do you remember who else
TA never knew about, and I've always meant to tell you about it, but I forgot.
How about that?
That's strange that I would forget something, right?
Yeah, and all the hundreds of hours we've talked over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I know, but I've always thought about telling you about it, and I always forget. And today I was writing. I said, "God damn it, I'm going to talk to Don, make sure I tell that story today."
Hey, we're only what is it? 18 episodes in, almost 20 episodes in. So now's a better time than ever,
Yeah, I got a call today, and somebody said they can't find us anymore online. And
really?
I said, you have to go to you have to go to the Four Horsemen Network, and they've been going to what were we on before?
Our old YouTube channel. We had
our old YouTube channel. Yep. So, in fact, this guy is writing a book about Vern. I'll talk to that one later. Talk to TA for a little while. He knows he wants to get going here. He'll doze off on us if we don't get him involved. You didn't know that though, TA, did you?
No, I did not.
How about that? Yeah, that would have been something. Greg, who else was on your guys' short list? Do you remember any other names that were there? That
it was a lot of young talent, but he wanted the best that was out there.
Yeah,
and every time he trained, like Ken Patera went to Charlotte too. Ken came back. He got Ken back. Bob Bruggers, he was kind of a different story. He was down with Eddie for a while, and then he went up to Charlotte. And I think he was just getting to the point where somebody told me he was catching on. He got in that plane accident and his career was over.
Right.
But Vern used to send a lot of people. He always, Eddie Graham, and Bill Watts were the two guys that he was more familiar, they were his buddies. Him and Eddie go way back, and him and Fritz von Erich. The Von Erichs, he was going to bring a couple of them in, but they had such a thing going down there. Fritz never wanted to let them go.
Yeah.
But we wanted to work a deal. We ended up getting our show on in Dallas. So we were going to start, filling them in on our TV. And then work the Dallas territory a little bit for them with the talent we had.
Right.
But again, we had such great frickin' talent. I mean, we only ran 4 or 5 matches on the card, and from the bottom up, they were all main event guys.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's people that's the thing about AWA is you could plug in and play like a lot of different people, in different spots. It seems like somebody could take a main event spot pretty darn easily at some point.
Right? And Sergeant Slaughter was another one. He ended up coming back, but his persona didn't get over as well. Of course, we were near the end. That he had a deal with Brody, and Brody walked out of the ring on him.
Yeah, right.
So
Hey,
you know.
Magnum, I wanted to ask you too. What did prompt the move from Mid-South to NWA? And I'm sure you talked about this before, but I just wanted to get your perspective. Like, what got you from Bill Watts up until Crockett Promotions?
Well, it was 100% Dusty. I
Yeah.
mean, Dusty called me. They had everything built around Barry Windham, and the territory was on its rear end. I mean, it was not. They weren't drawing anything. Top guys were making, $400 or $500 a week. The top guys,
Wow.
and we were on fire. But for me, it was twofold. First of all, Dusty and I were like this, and it was full circle for me because I had left. I grew up in Chesapeake, Virginia. I had gone all the way across the country, started in Portland, Oregon. I had worked the whole entire country, and in like reverse angle, and now my opportunity to come back and work my home, my home base, which I'd never been to, and and I was ready. So had Barry not left them, I don't still know that they would have popped the territory if Barry hadn't left, but it was him leaving that opened the door, made the introduction for Jimmy Crockett, and I was averaging a couple grand a week working for Bill, back there in '84, and again those guys were starving, but I knew the potential. I knew Dusty's vision was so big that it would be it would be hard to beat that kind of opportunity, that kind of commitment from a franchise to be behind you like they had given me. And they still had Ricky Steamboat there. I mean, Ricky was still in the Carolinas, but again, it was just they had all these people that had been recycled and been there so long. They needed a whole fresh thing. Just to Greg's point, I mean, that was one of Jimmy's things. I mean, I was 25 years old when I came to work for them. And we never talked about my age, of course. He wanted to portray me as even younger because he wanted me to be like one of the youngest world's heavyweight champions, And his vision was that, I mean, honestly, Rick's 10 years older than me, and he felt like that 10-year gap, was really like over the hill. And in terms of being the marquee, world's champion that he was looking for. And nothing could have been farther from the truth. Obviously, Rick had so much left in the tank. He had decades more of performance, left in him. But literally, they wanted Rick to be part of the organization, but they wanted him to be like a Jack Nicklaus. They looked at him like the golden bear of wrestling, and wanted him to be in that role. So yeah, when that door opened, I knew that was the opportunity of a lifetime. And here, I've been in the business at that time 5 years, and I've gone all the way around the country, and I get a chance to come back to my home area and work on top. And I laugh because I graduated high school in 1977, and in 1986 I'm selling out Norfolk Scope in my home area with Ric Flair for the world's title. And that's like something out of a kid's dream book. To be able to have that kind of path and something happen that quickly. There's just things like that don't generally happen in our industry, as Greg will attest. I mean, usually guys work 5-10 years to hopefully get a position to be able to work on top and draw money. So it was special. But I had very small interactions with Greg's dad, but they were positive, and it was a classy organization. It was just the opportunity to be on top and in your home and have your grandparents be able to come and watch you in a sold out arena. All that stuff's priceless.
Right.
That is. Yeah, you're very fortunate to have that. But Vern always liked guys that had an amateur wrestling background, and that's why he was a little focused on TA there. People ask me, well, why didn't they put the title on you? Well, you know what? First of all, I've been criticized all the time. It was just handed to you. And I wasn't the biggest guy in the world to work with those big guys, but I had a pretty good feel for the ring inside. And I think as far as the babyface was concerned, I could get the heat on that heel and throw a pretty good comeback.
Yeah,
the underdog thing's priceless, and that's Greg. I mean, they capitalize on that with you, obviously. But fighting from the bottom up is the hardest role to play in the ring. Shining's easy, shining and having to take bumps for you and making you look like Superman. That's easy. But fighting from the bottom up and keeping a contest going and not dying, and you get those people, all the stories Greg's is reiterated where they're ready to crawl in the ring and help you, and they're living this battle with you. That's the artistry of this thing that was, again, different era, different time before all the high flying, things of today. But literally, Ricky Steamboat wasn't a great big guy, a good physique, but baby faces that you can get that heat on and can fight back and then come back, and everybody want to be part of that comeback with you. Ooh, that's just money.
That slow comeback, guys come right up. Vern hated that. That slow comeback. You keep selling and selling, and you come boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, and just bring those people up. It's an art, and it's so fulfilling. TA knows the feeling of it because he was like that too, a little bit bigger, but he still knew how to sell and what the people expected from him and how that comeback came. And that's where you grab the people. You were the underdog, you were getting hammered. How's he going to come back? And they were just fighting for you. And, then you had to make that very believable comeback.
Man, yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was not everybody learned that either.
No, that's a tough thing to kind of adapt to and get used to, I'd imagine. And you work with those types of talents back then, like you're able to kind of learn on the job, so to speak. But I mean, even still, some of those guys, and you look at, I even heard Flair on a recent podcast. I think it was Rampage Jackson's podcast. How like, hey, would you ever want to open up like a training school or something like that? And Flair's like, no, I wouldn't, because I can give people advice. But he also talked about being almost a little impatient in certain ways when it comes to like trying to coach somebody or telling somebody. And you think about people to that caliber, somebody like Vern, Greg, is like a anomaly, I would say, because he was so talented in the ring and very good at the ring. But then here he could train somebody. You look at somebody from an out of sport. I always use this as an example. Somebody like a Michael Jordan, who was great, one of the best, arguably the best basketball player of all time. But he had such a hard time coaching people because I think his patience and everything like that got to him. So I think that's kind of a neat aspect of the thing, especially with Vern. And you think about it's a rare thing to be able to have that story be told in the ring, and a lot of stars being able to do that. And that's really what can get you over in the ring too. I think
he was a smaller guy in 1950. He had Donnelly O'Jonathan and Yukon Eric and Killer Kowalski. Lou Thez was a big guy.
Right.
And Lou never wanted to drop the belt to Vern because he said he was too small.
Wow.
But Vern wrestled 13 matches with him and sold out everywhere they went.
Yeah.
But and Vern knew that psychology of how to teach a young baby face how to make it believable.
Right.
And and you can't just pop up and start fighting back.
Right.
And I've told that story about Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson, Denver, 8 seconds, top wrist lock. We had a freaking riot. Never a punch or kick thrown.
Yeah.
That's an art that it's been lost in professional wrestling, but the times have changed. The general public has changed. They want constant action because 8 seconds, they changed the channel.
Right.
In fact, I had somebody call me today and they said, God, that WWE, they talk so much. And I said, well, they got 3 hours to fill.
Yeah.
You got to realize this is not wrestling the way it was. This is now a TV production. And they have to build it. And they have 3 hours to build. You can't just give them 3 hours of matches every week. You'll burn everybody out. And you have a lot of people that are very good talkers and can carry that. And the ring work since Triple H has taken over, and I guess Rock is maybe calling some of the shots too. I'm seeing more storytelling in the ring than there was before.
Right. Much more.
Even watching those matches the other night, in that buildup for Sheamus and Gunther. I mean, if you wouldn't believe that match, you got to be out of your mind. They beat the crap out of each other.
They did. Yeah.
I
want to touch upon that in a little bit, but I did want to get you bring up something interesting, Greg, about Raw being 3 hours and all the storytelling and a lot of talking going on. And I want to get both your perspectives on this.
Well, I gave you mine. Who TA on that one?
We'll start with TA on this one. Do you guys, Matt, how would you think you would have done in today's modern WWE when it comes to doing that stuff? Would you think you would have adapted okay, or would that have been a struggle for you to kind of be in that element of, hey, I have to talk a lot, or sometimes too, you were more than capable of handling yourself in the ring, so obviously that part's clear. But how about the storytelling aspect of talking basically for a good extended amount of time?
And I think it would have been good. I think I could have adapted to it. The thing you would have trouble was being verbatim to a script.
Yes.
I could give them the spirit of that script. You could give me the premise and timelines and bullet points and things that you wanted to come out. And certainly the key things, if there's going to be interaction or something that you're going to capture. But as far as a verbatim, being an actor, memorizing something and then having to regurgitate it and make it your own and make it, make it, something that people believe, that would have taken, I would have had to put some work in on that to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously if Flair could do it and he came from, the same era where I enjoyed, my run, then, probably could have, but I would probably got my wrist slapped more than once for, going off script. I don't know that I would have, gone and run somebody through a table off script or out of character, though I might have lost it on somebody and snatched them. But, it's just, it's just a little bit different environment, but I get why. I do get the whole premise of it. And it's kind of interesting because they have long dialogues.
Yes.
Cody will go out there. If you go back years before when Seth was getting his huge push, years ago, when he was the be all end all and he was doing 10-minute, solid things in the ring, then he ended up blowing his knee out or something. They had so much built around him, it kind of messed him up a little bit. But those guys all came out of NXT when Dusty was there, and really getting them to, get in that mode of being able to bring out a character. And I remember the last few times Dusty and I were together, he talking about the fact he didn't even consider it a wrestling school that he was running. He considered it an acting class, that he was giving them an acting class and getting them to be able to just, shed their ideas about anything and be able to become whatever it was that they were being asked to do. And that would be a little bit of a departure if it was something, kind of outside of your comfort zone, so to speak. But, that part, it might have been a challenge. I'm not going to just say, oh yeah, I'd have killed it, because I may not have. I may have got killed or been cannon fodder or fined so heavily I didn't want to come back. But I got to think guys like Steve Austin, certainly had to have had some leeway. You can't do the things he did and not be some improvisational in with it. Surely Vince knew when he was going to get kicked in the gut and get the Stone Cold Stunner, but there was a lot of work that went on in that ring that I believe was spontaneous. So I might have been able to do it on that level, but I'm not sure about the complete, straight scripted thing.
That's a very tough aspect, is memorization and still hitting your bullet points and conveying who you are as a persona and identity. Greg, how about you? How do you think you would have survived in this kind of modern WWE?
It would have been tough for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a lot of speaking and engagements and had to do speeches and stuff and memorize things. But Vern used to give us, you need 3 points. You need an opening, a middle, and a closing.
Mm-hmm.
Fill in from there. Give me a good opening, a good middle, and a good closing, but talk from your heart.
Yeah.
This is a real thing that's happening to you. You're wrestling TA tonight. He's the world champion. How do you feel about it? What are your chances?
Yeah.
And just tell your story to the people from the heart. And if you can talk like that, and when you have to put a little fire into it, and don't be afraid to, speak how you really feel and get emotional about it, because it's a real thing for you. And if you approached it that way, and you're athletic, and you knew what athletic contests did to you and how you got motivated for them, it was the same way. And I could really do a pretty good damn babyface interview, and not be cocky or arrogant about it. I'm not the biggest guy in the world. I know I'm going to have a tough time, and nobody's giving me a chance. But I guarantee you, they're going to know when they get done that I gave them a battle, win or lose.
I'd have made them feel sorry for you.
Oh boy.
Huh?
He would have made you feel sorry for.
When I get in there with that Magnum TA, yeah, he's got the amateur wrestling background, but I got a little background on myself. You know what? I'm going to give him all I got. And he's going to know, win or lose going out of there, that I gave him a match. And he can kiss my ass.
Yeah, and that is a great babyface perception. And he's right. As a babyface, you can't lie to the people.
No.
And that's part of where, they got all these gray areas and gray lines. And I'm going to circle you all the way back around to Tony Khan. Because Greg thinks it's because he doesn't have people conveying what he wants to the people. I don't believe that's it at all. I believe Tony's getting exactly what he wants in way of the product. It just doesn't happen to be what we, in our headsets are thinking makes sense. And it's not just we. I mean, Eric Bischoff,
Kevin Nash, Bubba Ray Dudley.
Yeah, the whole consensus of brain trust of wrestling that has been successful, all throw up the same thing. So can everybody be wrong? One guy's right. Well, it could be, but back to the conversation last week, the ratings don't speak to it. Yeah. If there was a overwhelming universe that embraced that thing, and they were, they had a couple million people watching a week, hey man, my hat's off to you. But again, I don't think it's that he thinks he needs more help. I think he just thinks it's my world, and you're tuning into it, and it is what it is. So, but the boys and girls are out there busting it, working it. I mean, from the announcers to the interview people to the people catching the shots. I mean, they're all putting in the amount of work and the kind of work you've got to have a 5-star production. So it's nobody's shortcoming or people just, like I've alluded to back in the day, guys that just were getting mailbox money and didn't have any pride in their performance and what they were doing and weren't coachable. These guys are giving it their all and actually doing what they feel like is being asked of them by the people they work for. So I got no fault with them, and I don't have any fault with the guys behind the scenes laying out the matches either, because I've heard them, and I've been to several events that I've seen some things that made me scratch my head, and after it was all said and done and over with, nobody was doing anything but slapping each other on the back, and that's what they wanted to do, and that's it. So everybody's having a happy party, and I'm going to go back and have a beer and think about it.
Well, something too, and I think you're right, Magnum. I think the big aspect is I think Tony does have people that can give him good advice and things like that. I just don't think he heeds it. And I think to what you're
saying. Who's
giving
him the advice then, Don?
Say what?
Who's giving him the advice there?
Well, I'm not too positive on who exactly is giving him advice, but he's got some smart minds behind there. Like he has somebody like a Jake Roberts, and he has Jeff Jarrett. He has.
Oh, is Jake Roberts in there? I didn't know Jake was there.
Yeah, he's been back there. And then they have Jerry Lynn, D. Malenko.
It should turn around if Jake's got a say in it.
Well, he's been there for years. No,
he's
he
been
didn't
there for
just
years.
get there.
I don't think he's
been
been
there.
listened to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's been the issue.
Yeah, and Arn was there, and
Yeah.
Dean Malenko.
So is he not listening to him, or
I think that's it. I like to kind of what
he's going to do it his own way.
It's his vision. Right. It's his vision, and things are getting executed the way he feels it should be done. And I just don't think he's able to. And I think this is a case could be with anybody. If I had the reins and stuff like that, and I was in my own bubble, there'd be a certain thing that I would get probably lost into. But it's a matter of being able to listen and understand and accept constructive criticism. I think a lot of Tony Khan's issues is he takes these constructive criticisms to heart, because a lot of these guys, Bischoff, Nash, Bubba Ray Dudley, are very blunt in their opinions and how they give them. But
Bischoff, you said?
Yeah, Bischoff too.
He's back in there?
No, he's not. Oh. Him and Tony Khan are at odds. They're probably on the polar opposite ends of one another here. But a lot of those guys give their opinions, and I think Tony takes it a little bit to heart, and I don't think he. You
have to have thick skin in the wrestling business. That's the first thing my dad taught me.
Right.
Because you're going to get criticized a lot, kid.
Exactly.
So don't have thin skin.
And that's the thing too. You're dealing with top tier athletes. You're dealing with guys that are competitive and have that competitive mindset and want that top spot that the other guys do have. And so when you think about that, and not only that, but you combine that with the drama aspect that comes with pro wrestling, there's that drama that goes embedded into the whole career lifestyle of pro wrestling. So there's a lot. And plus, yes, you have to have thick skin, and you have to be a little bit more adapt to taking those kind of criticisms.
Yeah, you do. You have to just let it roll off your back. But listen, so my dad used to think, especially the talent you've got in here, you listen to them.
Right.
You know, we had such, great guys in there to work with, the top guys. And I learned so much from Ray Stevens. And he was probably, timing-wise, Ray had such unbelievable timing. And that's what my dad had. And I think that's what I really got from them. When to do something, when not to do it, how to do it.
Yeah.
And, I remember one night in Peoria, Illinois, and God, it was a gym. We went down there, and they were driving 1,500, 2,000 people. We had 4,500 people in there.
Jeez.
Wrestling Stevens and Bockwinkel, and it was a hot night in the summer, hot lights, and Ray had me down in a reverse chin lock, and he hit me in the back of the neck, and I didn't react. And he said, "Someone." I said, "What?" Then he whacked me. I said, "Oh." I told him after, "Ray, I came from Vern's school. You got to lay it in. I got to feel it, man." I felt that one.
He made sure you felt that one.
Yeah. He said, "Well, you always so good. You didn't sell it." I said, "Well, I didn't fucking feel it." What do you got going there, TA? Somebody write you a letter?
He's like Adam Schefter. He's taking all the NFL stuff.
I'm
taking care of some business.
He's got work.
He's the boss. He's got a lot of business to handle.
I know he's the boss.
Yeah, he's the boss.
That's why I get concerned when he kind of turns us off. I get worried.
I'm still listening. Yeah. I'm still dialed into you.
Well, I'll quit talking.
Well, let's take a couple of fan questions. You know what? I'm liking the vibe of this show today so far. So let's do a couple fan. Robert, pop something up there. Your choice. CB Magnum, did you know your in-ring career was over straight away after the big accident? Or was there optimism for you that something was gonna?
Yeah, I didn't know whether my life was over right after the accident. I mean, I was paralyzed from my neck down, couldn't move anything but my head, and had a medical professional telling me that that if I was lucky, I would be able to sit up and be fed and taken care of somebody in a wheelchair basically for the rest of my life at 27 years old. And then opted for what at that time was considered a radically quick surgery. I had a decompression surgery done within 8 hours of the accident. And that wasn't something that was normally done when was something of the nature of what I had. My C5 vertebrae had exploded like a hand grenade. My disc was pushed in an L shape up against my spine. I had bone shards all in my spine, and they gave me 1,000,000 to 1 shot of ever walking again.
How long were you locked in the car after you rolled over?
Well, I didn't roll over. I slid.
They got you out of there. You told me that.
I don't even know how much time passed. It was a good minute. They cut the roof off the jaws of life, and I mean it was a mess. But
I never lost. How long did it take them to get you out of the car?
A couple hours.
Jesus, with a broken neck, you sat there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They said my neck muscles was the only thing not paralyzed in my body, and my neck was holding everything in place. So though I was paralyzed, I could hold my head, and that that neck was there, and so
what was going through your mind? Tia, what was going through your mind when you were sitting there?
Not panicking and being able, so I would be able to communicate with somebody when they got there, because I knew I was hurt really, really bad. Mm-hmm. I didn't know, obviously it was a spinal injury, but I knew the worst. I knew it was horrible, the fact that I couldn't move, which most helpless feeling like ever. And yeah, a
strong will and a strong mind. Jesus Christ, to do that.
It was a lot of things all came together, but to the point of there was lots of people cheering for me, thinking, oh, can you make 100% comeback? But I knew every inch of the battle that I fought back to get back what I did, and also knew as I learned and understood the nature of neurology type injuries, I knew that it would take some medical breakthrough that they still haven't figured out. 30 some years later, they still haven't figured it out. And so I had not one iota of a thought in my mind that I would ever get back 100%. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, I knew that the minute I got my brain out of the fog of all the medicine they were giving me for the first 30 days, because they were just pumping pain meds in me and everything else for the first month. I knew in my spirit inside that that if I could get back where I could walk, that would be a miracle in and of itself, and being able to become independent and take care of myself and do all the things that we all take for granted would be like winning the world's heavyweight champion of the universe, right, as far as accomplishment.
Well, I tell you, I get a tear in my eye every time you tell me that story, bud.
Wow. Yeah. Magnum, how long did it take you to regain feeling?
Well, I never regained all my feeling. I have what is called a Brown's cord injury, meaning that one side of my cord was damaged worse than the other, and your spinal cord works like in reverse. So one side affects your motor nerve function, the other side your sensory nerve function. So the side that I have that works the best, which is my left side, actually has the worst sensation. So like, even though this side all appears like works better and enables me to function, my hand always feels like I have a glove on.
Oh,
it's like I used to have to like look at things. If I picked it up and it was hot, I would get a delayed reaction. I'd get some halfway to my mouth before I realized it was too hot to be holding, and had to put it down real fast. And so it's like nothing on me has ever gotten back to 100%, even though, from a layman's perspective looking at me, they say, oh, well, your left side looks pretty strong. Well, it is, because it does all the work, but I don't have anything that's getting 100% signal like it did before the accident.
How old were you when that happened?
How old was I? 27.
God almighty.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, God bless you, Magnum.
I've heard that story from you a couple times, and honest to God, I got tears in my eyes.
I didn't know it was that severe, Magnum. I did not know. Like, I knew it was a bad car wreck, but I didn't know you were paralyzed.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, Flair came. That's the story. I mean, Flair. They brought the Horsemen, which kayfabe was king, right? And they brought the Horsemen, all four of them, up to the ICU, and Flair and Tully and Arn and JJ, were all there, and they came in, and Flair, and I couldn't talk. I had a respirator in, so I couldn't speak. I could hear what they said, and I could register with my eyes. And Flair laid the 10 pounds of gold on my chest. He said, "I'm giving you this now." He said, "When you get out of here, you come back to the ring, and I'll give you the other one."
Wow.
Because they didn't know if I was going to make it. They didn't know if I was going to make it a week, much less, ever get out of there.
Yeah, yeah. And to be 27, like that's just, it's very hard to fathom. At my age, or even Greg's age, look at that's really wild.
75. Go ahead.
I was gonna say 50.
In mine, I'm worried about is my memory. So.
Well,
wow.
and funny you should say that, because there's two things that will cause you to have that kind of symptom. What I had, one's a spinal injury, and the other's a head injury. So I was 5 months in the hospital, and all the months I was in the rehabilitation side, I was in there with people who had head injuries, and they were dealing with the same neurological problems I was, as far as paralysis or things not working, but they didn't have their minds working, to be able to combat it all. And I thank my blessings every day that mine was, the root cause of mine was what it was, because if I hadn't had my mind to be able to dial in and focus and get a grip and deal with everything that I was dealing with, I don't know how those people do it, and most of them don't ever gain any great level of function and place in society. So I was very thankful.
Your background in wrestling and everything, and athlete, is a little different thinking process than what the average guy has about what they can do and about their body. And I think that probably helped you as much or more than anything.
And you're right. I mean, I wasn't a natural athlete. I couldn't do a push-up in the 8th grade. Not one.
No,
really? Laid on the floor, PE class, physical fitness test, could not push myself up off the floor for one push-up.
No way.
Were you a chubby kid?
I never trained, never done anything. I just started it all then.
So when did you all start then getting, the athletic body?
Yeah, right then, that day, I was introduced to wrestling in gym class, and I was no good at it, but it lit a fire under me. My mom gave me Dan Gable's book about his life story.
What?
1972, the Olympics and all that stuff back then. And it inspired me, and it lit a fire under me, and I molded when I was a senior in high school, I did 98 push-ups without stopping, and won the state championship. Pinned everybody I wrestled in the state tournament.
Holy
shit! How long did you wrestle? All 4 years in high school?
And I lost every match I wrestled my first year, and I won them, and I turned it all around.
State champion your final year. What weight did you wrestle at?
167.
And at senior, high school?
Yeah.
That's what I was, 167.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It's a tough class.
They took me out. I played basketball. I played football, baseball, and hockey, and football, baseball, and basketball. And my junior year in basketball, the wrestling coach came down to me. He said, "Hey, I've got a spot on the wrestling team because somebody got hurt, and I wasn't starting at basketball. So should I go down and try out?" So he made me wrestle everybody. And I was 167. And that was the one that was open, or no, that wasn't the one that was open. I pinned everybody, including the heavyweight.
Whoa.
So he said, "Okay, you got a spot, 137 pounder." And I went home and told my dad, and he said, no, I'd love you to wrestle, but you can't drop that kind of weight. That was the only spot he had open. And then the basketball coach was pissed at me, so then I didn't play anymore there that year.
Boy, a heel back then, even high school. Greg Gagne was
that made it fun. So anyhow,
what, Greg? What? So
Tia, it's Tia. Did you ever think of writing a book about it?
Well, I'm still working on the story.
That's it.
Oh, You want the ending here is Power Town Wrestling, right?
Well, I mean, you just don't ever know. I mean, if good Lord willing, and I make it another month, I'll be 65, and I didn't realize I'd be engulfing on, what you brought me into at this stage in my life. But
well, I'm glad you came into it.
But you've got to, you've got to be open minded and be able to see opportunities and see things and and I've been really fortunate to had I was just a little less than 7 years actively in the wrestling ring and had a great ride and made some memories that have lasted for a really long time. People still talk about some of the benchmark things that happened and then I got introduced into the world of telecom and telecom construction first and owned and operated my own business successfully up until 2007. And I've been working, almost about 17 years now for a Fortune 500 company in telecom. And so I've had all these different tiers, and I keep thinking like the next thing is, man, what a ride that was. And then Greg introduces me into the world of collectible toys of all things. And this has got, just as crazy a twist as all the other things that I've done. So I guess it's not over till the fat lady sings, and I'm just gonna ride the ride and try to keep Greg laughing we'll be doing this in 10 years, and he'll be saying, well, I'm 85, and I'll say, well, you're still younger than Steve.
Well, Steve Rosenthal, we got involved with it, and I think I blew up one day at him. He doesn't talk to me. He doesn't answer my phone calls, nothing. So TA's kind of running the shop.
I'm your liaison.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The liaison. That's it. That's it. The boss. You facilitate the talent, Greg, and then the Magnum, he's the liaison.
I bring the talent, and then they take it away from me because before I blow something up. Hey, I've got my dad, that French temper, it pisses me off when people don't listen, and they do shit and then it's wrong and they come back to you. That's what drives me freaking crazy. And I get a little hot headed about it and I lose control, and I shouldn't because I know better, but that's why I have TA.
If they have a problem with you, to call Go-Go and she'll straighten it out.
Yeah.
They had and I mean, look at what you did for Tiffany Stratton too. I think that attitude really helped her out. So there you go.
Well, I'll tell you what, with this Power Town, TA has done such a great job with Steve Rosenthal and the way they're building it. And if the talent will have the patience, eventually this thing is going to hit a home run. I mean, I think we're getting pretty close to it right now. We just have to get some more merchandising opportunities because, it came out, they wanted maybe, 20, 30 guys on board. We've got, 27 people on board.
That's just wild.
Men, women, the little people, referees, promoters. I mean, we've got the whole, but these ultras are so expensive to make. One mold.
Yeah.
How much?
It like $25K. It's such a big deal. It's one of those things you get involved with, and had you known everything that was involved on the front side of it, you probably wouldn't have gotten involved. But it's like everything I've ever done that's worthwhile involved, stepping out a little bit in faith and doing something you'd never done before. It's like the old saying: if you think you're going to get different results and continue to do the same thing you've done over and over again, you're crazy. And I'm not afraid to try new things, and I'm not afraid to share what I've learned from other things in whatever endeavor I'm in. And Greg's maybe where I'm not shy to communicate with people, so that works well. And we're building something that came together out of a lot of experience, but really out of nothing. And most people can't start up a business of any magnitude that quickly, especially when you're dealing with this many pieces of a puzzle as we are. I did some research one time. I sent Greg this thing I found on a forum of what Mattel invests whenever they do something. And the number was so staggering that I said, thank goodness nobody ever shared this with me in the beginning, or I'd have thought this is not even remotely a good business model. There's no way this is going to be, a profitable, worthwhile thing to do.
I had it. I didn't know what to do with it, so I gave it to TA.
Greg, Greg calls me up, hey, you want to be involved with this? And then we talked, and he said, hey, you might want to meet this guy. We need to talk some more. And it was like the hook. He had that hook thing, that little gift of gab. And Greg's got enough of his dad wrapped in with him, and reminds me of a mutual friend of ours, Mike Graham, that I was very close with.
Me too.
Got a lot of his amicable attributes that made him and I so close. And it's just, it's been a fun thing to do, to commiserate, to cuss and fuss about when you're unhappy about things. But then, at some point in time, you got to realize you can either be, it's easy to complain, but being part of a solution and trying to help something be successful takes a little bit different perspective. And and I've had to apply that in my life and everything I've done for the past 35 years. So I'm trying to bring some lessons learned into this new thing and keep Greg from going nuclear and you
have to have one like that and one like this to make it work.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's why we're so good together.
What a tandem.
I mean, it really is. I was very fortunate to be able to get TA on board and really become a good friend.
100%. I'm happy I'm able to do this with you guys.
And we're going to make this podcast work too.
And I wouldn't have known you, Dominic. We wouldn't have had this experience. So it's all good.
It all works out.
This is fun. I did have a call. Who was it today? They said, the guy that's writing Vern's book. He said, I can't find the podcast. You're not on YouTube.
Yeah.
I said, well, Dominic's handling all this. So
give him my info. I'll be happy.
On the Four Horsemen Network.
Four Horsemen Network.
Where else can they see it? They're going on YouTube where we were before, and they're not getting it. And they said, well, then we went to Spotify, and you're not on there. Why aren't we all on all these?
Well, you know what? I was thinking too.
Who's ever in charge of that? We better get on their ass. Who is it?
Well, I'm in charge of it. So what I
you are. I'm sorry.
Get on my ass, because what I did is I removed it from Spotify because I was like, let's make this really YouTube focused. But the idea I'm kind of having now is, like, since we're on the Four Horsemen Network, I think we'll create a little podcast, another podcast feed that people can tune in.
We need to explode this thing. Because we're giving the people so much inside information.
Look at all this. I'm learning so much today.
That nobody else on the podcasts anywhere in the country are giving them.
That's it. We're talking action figures.
All your friends
we're talking
out there.
NWA. We're talking AWA.
Podcast.
Yeah. Hey, Blue Meanie chimes in here. He says, I took Magnum's accident especially hard as a fan because Pele Lindbergh of the Philadelphia Flyers died in a similar accident and in the same model car. How about that? Wow.
That there is, and I still love Porsches. It's something my very first car was a 914 Porsche back in 1975. But I mean, James Dean, died in a Porsche. There was a Charlotte Hornets basketball player 20 years ago died in his Porsche leaving practice. And of course, mine almost killed me. And there's just something about the aura of that car. And there's been a lot of strange deaths and accidents revolving that vehicle. And I think a lot of it's to do with, it's a rear engine car, European, styled car, and they handle completely differently than what we're accustomed to in America. So if you don't understand the dynamic of what it means to have that rear engine hanging out there, what you have to do in panic situations and stuff, you almost should have to take a special course and relearn your basic driving skills. Because I've driven race cars I've driven on Charlotte Motor Speedway. I drove Benny Parsons' Copenhagen car back in the day on the Speedway, a couple hundred miles an hour, and I understand cars, but the rear engine vehicle, particularly back then, the handling was nothing like what they are today. They didn't have ABS and all these, computerized things that, kept you from losing control. And they called it a widowmaker at one time. There was a number of years, as a matter of fact, that you could not buy one in the United States because someone had been killed in California. A doctor's wife had taken her husband's car just to go to the grocery store or something, and was involved in a freak accident and got killed, and they sued. And when I bought my first high-end Porsche when I was working for the Crockett's, I bought a 928S because, again, from like 80 to 85, they didn't import them into the U.S. And then I had something happen to my one car, and they had just got a brand new one in, 1986 car, and I purchased it. And there's something just eerie, just strange kind of about that thing, almost like what was the car in the movie Christine or something that they've got a little, there's something a little twisted running through the DNA there. But all kidding aside, I totally believe if you're behind the wheel, you're in control of the car. I've learned a lot about safety things, all kinds of things over the years. And bottom line is, if it's raining, if it's bad weather, you need to drive a little slower. Mm-hmm. And back then I thought I was Superman, and I was driving on a really rain slick night. And something unexpected happened, and something that, had I been in a different kind of vehicle, I probably would have been okay. I would have driven out of it. But nonetheless, it comes back down to operator. Nobody came and took my car and put a gun to my head, or I was a passenger or nothing. I was driving it, and I've got to take that responsibility. You can't just sit around and boo-hoo. I was in an accident. An accident sitting there in a lightning bolt striking you in the head. That's an accident. Yeah. Driving a car and you losing control of it, you got a little skin in the game.
It's hard to have that in perspective, though, at that age, I think, because like you're 27, you look at how that happened. You do think you're indestructible at that point. And there's a lot of that, that it's very hard to kind of keep that in perspective when you're that age.
I'll give you, for instance, I mean, Tully and I were doing a spot one time and we were down in Columbia, South Carolina, and he used to do this thing, a slingshot suplex, where he would pick the guy up, drop him across the rope, and drop him back in the ring. That was his finish.
Right.
And this was like a TV taping, and we were having a dark match or something. And Tully got the idea somehow that he was going to we were outside the ring up on the apron. He was going to pick me up. He's going to slingshot me, but he wanted me to go back in the ring on the slingshot. But instead, it catapulted me outside the ring, and I was coming straight down on my head. And he had the forethought to reach up like seconds before I hit and scoop my head, where I was able to land all the weight across my shoulder blades. But it looked so bad that Dusty came flying off the stage and ran down there and like stopped the match and booted him off and stopped the whole thing because he thought I'd kill myself. And we had so many things happen like that, like every day. You didn't think anything that horrible could go wrong. And I'd broke my neck in the ring before and never even knew it. And broke my back before and never even knew it. Because we just had that mentality to go, go, go. And you played hurt. And if it didn't shut you down, you went on to the next town and did the deal. So horrendous thing. It is a miracle that I survived it. It is a blessing that I was able to, have all these amazing kids and family that I have today that frankly, had I stayed in the industry, I probably never would have had, because I was married to the business. I love the business. That was my first love. And I sacrificed everything for it.
Man, Magnum, what an awesome perspective though. And like really profound, I think. Really profound.
Listening to your story there, I was just at the doctor yesterday. Mm-hmm. My right shoulder's been bugging me. He says, well, when did you break it? I think it was Mad Dog when he threw me between the ropes and I hit the ring post in Winnipeg. I felt a real bad burning. He said, well, your rotator cuff's gone, your shoulder was cracked, and you got bone on bone.
Oh, geez.
But, you know, those are things you just kept doing. Japan, I got dropped on my neck. I thought I broke my freaking neck. And we were there 6 weeks, and this was night 2. Wow. You know, you wrestle through it.
Yeah. 5
back surgeries, you know, both knees. It's a tough sport, but you know what? When you're in it, you love it. And it's the only thing I look back on. I'm like, TA, it's a world of its own, and it's something that it's so enjoyable, and it feels so good that you've accomplished something when you get out of that ring. It's hard to beat.
I believe
it really is. It's a wonderful, wonderful sport.
Oh man, that's why I love it. I love watching you guys. I love watching that camaraderie. I think too. There's that team aspect that kind of goes into play with a lot of that thing too. Is like because you're putting trust in one another to do all that stuff. So
you got another Magnum.
Yeah.
Talk about. They want to know about working with Flair in the AWA at Super Clash.
That's it. We got some good ones here. And we'll have to save that one. I think what we'll do is we'll talk about that whole thing a little bit as one episode. I think might be the thing.
Yeah, that's
good.
Yeah, that might be a good one. Let's do this one. Producer Robert asked this one here. Dusty famously compared Baby Doll to Marilyn Monroe. Did he ever openly compare you, Magnum, to a James Dean or a John Wayne? Or was there obviously Tom Selleck has those ties and stuff like that? But was there any comparisons you'd make?
He thought I was like a James Dean. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, he did. I was the rebel without a cause for him. And, you know, he was my biggest fan. I mean, he sat and imagined the things that he would do if he were me, and then had me go do them.
Yeah.
And, you know, and no, I mean, seriously, Dusty was one of the greatest in-ring performers and the best on the mic that, you know, there's ever been in the history of the sport. And he had a vision for me that was really second to none. And you know, the push, the you know, the vote, the everybody behind me wanting to see me be, you know, this, you know, something bigger than the sport had ever seen. You know, it was a team of people, but it was all heralded by Dusty championing, you know, that cause and putting that faith in me. And you know, we used to have team meetings, you know, all the time and bring all the guys in. And I mean, he made it known that I was like there, you know, I was the quarterback. I mean, you know, Flair was the champion. That was the champion's a champion. But for the Crockett Promotions, I mean, I was his Joe Namath, and he had, you know, huge expectations and dreams and exciting things that he wanted us to do and do together, and him produce things that, I mean, he'd written a movie script back in the day that he was wanted to take to Hollywood, and it was all, you know, all with me involved in it. So, oh, look at there.
Something, my little buckaroo.
Speaking of John Wayne,
you'd have been a pretty good John Wayne too.
I like it.
Man, Greg, that's what you should have been, as Cowboy Greg Gagne.
Yeah. Oh, I used to love John Wayne.
Oh, one of my favorite movies is Rio Bravo with D. Martin. And
oh God, he was good in all of them.
Oh man, so good.
You get that little look and that little Magnum.
Good, Greg.
And a good one.
That's pretty good. Okay, hey Greg, you had a story about Vince. We'll close it out with that, and we'll plug Power Town too. What was the story about Vince you had?
A story about what?
Vince, you said you had a story about Vince.
Oh, story. I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
It's coming back to me now. Well, he came knocking on our door back in about, must have been spring of 1983. And he'd had a meeting with Vern and I about wanting to buy out the AWA.
Okay.
So we sat there with him for a number of hours and talked back, and Vern said, you know, hey, the problem is I've got partners in Winnipeg. San Francisco, I have Leo Nomalini. I have Dennis Hilgard, who is Las Vegas, Milwaukee, Green Bay. I've got Gene Reed in Denver, and I've got Wilbur Steiner and Dick Bruiser in Chicago, that area. So, you know, I'm gonna have to talk to all of them. I mean, they're partners, so I can't just say, here's what it is. So we had lunch, and he said, okay. So we took him to the airport. We drive up and drop him off at the airport. As he gets out, he turns around and he yells, "I don't negotiate." And Vern couldn't hear me. He says, "What did he say?" He said, "I don't negotiate." He said, "What does he mean by that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what he means. He doesn't negotiate," whatever that means. Never heard from him again. And then October, that fall, is when we finished the Battle Royals, or it was October, November, and Hogan went to Japan with Andre after Phoenix. Vince was on the plane and signed him the contract.
Man.
And then he missed Christmas, which was sold out. Of course, we had the big thing coming up in the spring with CBS with Hogan and Bockwinkel that he didn't know about. And the rest is history. Now they're there and we're here doing a podcast.
Doing a podcast. Talking how much it takes.
Hoping we can make a dime or two here.
We got to pay those action figure molds. That's what we got to do.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Greg, a follow up too on that. When the plan was for Andre versus Hogan, were you guys going to move on even though after the fact that when you lost Hogan, like try to find a replacement, try to do something?
We had to, you know, it threw everything up because Vern would always, he'd lay out a whole year at a time.
Right.
We'd start at the end and come back. We'd start September 1st to the end of April. Those were our biggest months. In the summer, we'd run the big arenas, you know, it'd be on the weekends. We maybe do 1 or 2 spot shows during the week. So, the guys had all May and the first 2 weeks of June off. So, you know, that's what we had such great talent there because they got time off to spend with the families. Vern was very conscientious of everybody's families and how they had to spend time with them because when I was growing up, he was on the road. He was never home. Yeah. You know, back in the 50s, they did the DuPont network and then they went to all the territories and he'd wrestled, you know, like TA did in Charlotte. They were never home, you know, on the road all the time. So he didn't want that. He wanted to be able to, the guys to be able to be time with their families and still make a great living. So that's why he was considered the best payoff man in wrestling for a long, long time.
Yeah, how about that? And then, like, proof is in the pudding too. He could train, he could wrestle, he could be a champion.
If Hogan would have stayed there, and the thing would have worked out with CBS, wrestling would probably be a whole lot different right now.
Could you imagine, man?
Yeah,
wow,
but you know what? You can't keep looking back all the time. You look forward. When I watch their show, I watch the improvements they made. I watched the improvements since Triple H took over. And The Rock, I'm sure he's calling a lot of the shots too, because I've seen a big change in the way the matches are, the interviews, and it just feels like a better place.
Absolutely.
You know, it really does.
Mm-hmm.
And I give them all credit.
It's reassuring to have somebody like Paul Levesque in charge and handling things because he's got such a tie to the history of the business and appreciation for everything in the business when it comes to all that stuff.
You know, it would be smart of them to hook up with us with all these action figures.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
Let's get on the phone. I'll get Triple H's number. We'll call him up. Get him on here.
I've got his number.
Okay, well there we go.
he just doesn't answer it.
Gagne, that's why.
Stephanie used to answer. Now I just get a text message. I'm out of the business.
You're out.
She's out. She's out. She said. So.
Well, guys, if you like those action figures we're talking about, we got the TNA line happening right now. So there's Moose, there's Eddie Edwards, there's Jordan Grace, there's Josh Alexander. They look amazing. If you go to powertownwrestling.com, you can check out each figure individually, and there's some really, really cool shots. I was just on the website today, and wow, they are just amazing. Like even these front pictures, you can see all angles of them, and that's great. And what we talked about in previous episodes, the tattoos with Moose. The attention to detail is just amazing. You can get a whole bundle for $189.99, or you can order them individually for $49.99. Go to powertownwrestling.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you go scan that QR code that's over to my right, and then get over there and get them in, because the Remco figures, they're sold out right now, and they were a hot commodity there. Obviously, Ultra Series 1 was sold out and such a success. Ultra Series 2 is on the way. There's so much more to come on here. Magnum, is there anything else news-wise you want to drop when it comes to Powertown? Anything else going on?
Just that, particularly for the TNA fans, because a lot of the TNA fans are not accustomed to, this particular means of getting things. They're wrestling fans, and they do have a more mature audience. It's not like really kids, but nonetheless, most of those people are used to being able to walk into Target or a Walmart and buy an action figure of their favorite guy. And because of this particular unique, collector quality figures that we're making, and them being available first through this pre-order, they will be available, no doubt, in certain outlets, not Target or Walmart, but there'll be online stores that will have them. But this will be your only opportunity to get them at this price, because this price, obviously, you're paying up front. You're going to wait 4 or 5 months to be able to get them. And when everything that's made and that vault is sealed and they're shipped out, whatever's out there could be, if they're $50 now, they could be $100 when they hit that market. So folks that aren't familiar with this kind of collectorish world and are just a staunch fan of TNA, be aware that this is kind of a unique opportunity for you, and you won't get this bargain, even though there's been folks clamoring about, oh gosh, it's more than I can go get a Mattel for. Yeah, well, you can go get a lot of those Mattels, but there will only be X number of these made, and when they're done, you'll be wondering where you can get one, and you won't get one for that price ever again. So just be aware.
Go on eBay.
This just came in from Steve Armstrong, the Armstrong Wrestling family, Bullet Bob and Brad and the whole group.
Yeah.
Greg, I just looked at the sites of Powertown. I had no idea that this was going to be this big. Dang, I better get some verbiage down. Thanks, Greg. You're my bro.
How about that?
We just saw the site, and he had no idea the kind of merchandise that Powertown has going for the talent. And with their patience, they will have an action figure that's unbelievable. And, you're talking about can't get them. Kerry Von Erich was on for $1,500 online. It went the other day.
Are you? I have that figure.
Well,
jeez, oh man,
don't sell it.
I'm holding on to it.
You might now.
I'm holding on to it. Oh man,
buddy.
Some exciting things going on. So guys, go to powertownwrestling.com. Check it out. You can also, I just checked the website too, go to thewrestlingcollection.com. Still available, but for more of a bigger price is the original Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, and Vern Gagne. So you can get those. No, I'm sorry, just Brody and just Stan Hansen are the only original ones available. But you can get the uncirculated version of Vern, Brody, and Hansen for $39.99. Those are the ones that are for display purposes only. So go to thewrestlingcollection.com. Check those out too. Man, such a cool thing. Guys, this is one of my favorite episodes, honestly, because it's just like I had something planned out, but we went in a completely different direction thanks to the fan interaction and everything.
We know what we're doing. Dom, I know you don't think we do.
You guys know what's going on. We got it all covered here. Guys, if you like what you're seeing too, be sure to follow Greg on Instagram at gagne.greg on Instagram. Follow Magnum TA at The Real Magnum TA on X, Twitter. You can also follow him on Instagram at Magnum_TA. You can follow me on X at Dominic D'Angelo. But go to the FourHorsemenNetwork.com. Check out all our old clips. He was asking about our older episodes too that were on our older YouTube channel. I'm going to start uploading those to the YouTube channel as well too, in addition to some classic clips where we're talking about Dusty, where we're talking about Wahoo McDaniel, where we're talking about Ric Flair, Vern, several other names we've covered, Bruiser Brody. The list goes on and on.
Wilbur Snyder, Dick the Bruiser. Wilbur Snyder,
Dick the Bruiser. We got so many that we're going to be covering.
Sean's. There's a crazy crew.
What is it?
We
got so much to cover, and we could have went in so many different avenues today too, even just by what you guys were talking about. And it's just like,
well,
man,
everybody out there, tell your friends about the podcast.
That's it.
Come and see us. We love the questions.
Absolutely. This has been fun stuff, guys. And also next week, the plan I think is going to be a mailbag, because what I did in the chat here, I screenshot a lot of your guys' questions because I've seen a lot of people asking questions. So what we'll do next week, I'll add those to the queue. We'll get a Q&A session going here next week too, and we'll have a lot of fun doing that. So
let me ask TA a quick question here, because sure. Dusty famously compared Baby Doll to Marilyn Monroe. TA, how was Marilyn Monroe?
She was. I'm not quite that old.
Oh, really? I thought maybe she was in the car next to you.
Now, I have no doubt. Had things been like 10 years different, oh my goodness, that would probably been a thing.
Hey, anybody can do the young ones.
well, I'm not even going to start. We don't have enough time for that conversation today.
Yeah. Oh, we're out of time.
I learned that a long time ago.
All right, guys. Hey, we'll see you next time here on Straight Talk with the Boss. Magnum TA and Greg Gagne.